It's a bony, omnivorous freshwater fish originally found in the slow-running rivers of southern China, one of the Cyprinidae or carp. Not a variety of golden carp, but related to it. The fish I'm describing is Carassius auratus, the fish of the fairground. It all started in the land of dragons and mythical monsters that was China of 1,000 years ago. It was back in the Song dynasty. The wild goldfish was, and still is, a dull grey carp rather like this. But someone in that age-old China noticed a few had some bright red scales. By breeding these red-marked fish together, slowly the decorative fish of today was developed. Our bright red goldfish is a totally man-made fish. This 17th century Chinese painting shows a family surveying its pet goldfish. You can see a scene just like that in Peking today. The bowls have hardly changed at all, although the fish may have done so, for careful breeding still produces a fresh variety every few years. This one is labelled red tiger head. To us, these shapes are often grotesque, but perhaps not more so than some of our dog breeds. These bubble eyes could no more cope with the wild than fly, but then neither could the British bulldog. Rows of weed-filled bowls harbour the young fish while they develop their colours. Only when they're adult do they develop the brightness of these celestials. The fry are brown and camouflaged. The translation of the Chinese name is Red Look to the Sky. To us, this is a calico pom-pom. And this appalling monstrosity has been bred to have no gill covers, but you don't see it in this country. We call this a lion head. Curiously, to the Chinese, it's a tiger head. And this is a water bubble. Again, they're not popular in Britain. It's difficult to believe that all these fish are still one species with one Chinese ancestor. A simple genetic tree shows us how it's been done. At the top is the original grey carp that led directly to our common goldfish. Going along another path, but still from the same stock, came the shubunkin with its complicated tail shape. Derived less directly via the common goldfishes are the black moors and the bubble eyes. Rooted through the shubunkins are the multicoloured calicos. But now it gets complicated. A combination of common goldfish and calico has led to the lionheads, whereas the fantails are simply modified commons. There are now at least 126 different varieties. All these exotica are not what most of us have in our ponds. This one is well and carefully stocked, but most hold a collection of commons with a few rather variegated and motley shubunkins. Fish will spawn easily in garden ponds as the water temperature rises in spring. Then the smaller male chases and bumps the egg-laden female until she drops her eggs. They call it driving her. Like most fish, goldfish lay an enormous number of eggs, over 1,000, each about 1.5 millimeters across. By the third day, its heart is beating and pumping blood around the body. The newly hatched fry lives off its yolk sac for 48 hours. After that, it's eating tiny creatures for the successful, or being eaten by a fungus for the unsuccessful. Young common goldfish are black, like wild goldfish, for at least 3 or 4 months. An egg-heavy female shubankin is being driven by 3 males. Of the 1,000 or so eggs she will lay, only about 5% will survive in a pond like this. Things about very young fish is that they sink rather than swim. To float, they must fight against gravity and swim up to the surface. They do it to fill their swim bladder with air. Once full, you can see it shining through their body. It is that air in their swim bladder that gives the fish, whatever its size, the buoyancy to swim more easily and float in mid-water. The enormous number of surplus eggs and fry is a safeguard against disasters and predators. A water scorpion like this will take many tiny fish. A huge surplus of young also means that if some tragedy overtook the pond, a few remaining fish could repopulate it quickly and easily. Now, having survived the first 2 months or so, their newfound scarlet leads to another hazard. The bright colour provides a very good aiming mark from above. A goldfish eaten by a kingfisher presumably had no idea what happened, no time to be frightened. But that's not so in this situation, and a rather special microphone picks up the goldfish's response, greatly amplified. A series of squeaks and squeals, which ironically sound rather cat-like. In fact, a goldfish's hearing, in the conventional sense, is rather feeble. Much more, it depends upon what's called its lateral line system. What is happening is that the cat's claws on the outside of the bowl send vibrations through the bowl and water and are received by the fish's lateral line. In many ways, it's a system that serves the same purpose as our ears, and the fish is obviously distressed by what it senses. In fact, even without the cat, bowls like this are very unsuitable for goldfish. The rule is that each inch of goldfish needs 8 pints of water and 24 square inches of surface. As most fish you buy are about 2 inches long, each one needs about 16 pints. Only with sufficient space will the fish develop properly, and it's capable of living 25 years and growing over 1 foot long. 5 pints only, not big enough for a single 1-inch fish. It's by understanding the right basic relationships between volume and surface area, plus 1,001 other skills, that goldfish farming has become big business in the United States. There are 200 acres of ponds on this farm in Pennsylvania, and they produce 500,000 goldfish each week. It's a family business that started back in 1923. Now it's one of the largest in the United States. Dick Rice, who now runs the farm, is collecting his brood goldfish. He handles them carefully, for they represent his breeding stock and his livelihood. From amongst the many, he takes the few carefully chosen parents and carries them to the spawning tanks outside. The males tend to start driving the females in the evening, but the eggs are not laid until early the next morning. And they will lay their eggs on these mats of Spanish moss in a frenzy. As the mats become fully loaded with eggs, they are changed for fresh ones. The egg-filled mats are transferred to the hatching ponds, and in about 8 weeks' time, these eggs will have turned into inch-long goldfish and be ready for sale. To check the quality of the eggs, a sample female goldfish is stripped. She should produce about 1,000 eggs. The eggs are also still pouring out of the females on the mats. The males, just as they were in the garden pond, are rubbing alongside and fertilizing the eggs. Such richness provides easy pickings for the wild predators. Grackles, bullfrogs, snapper turtles, they take 15% of all the young fish. Dick Rice philosophically says that he doesn't blame the wildlife for cashing in on such a rich protein source as he breeds so much. There is no way that he can afford the cost of netting or other defences to keep the predators out. All in all, 4.5 million fish will go to feed these predators this year alone. Nowadays, it's massive American farms like this that provide most of the common goldfish that come to Britain. But it was only around 1870 that goldfish first arrived in America from Japan. Those early days are light years away from this mechanized near factory. Now 1/2 ton of fish food has to be spread each day to produce the yearly crop of 30 million fish. operation is on such a scale that it needs a full-time scientist to keep constant watch for disease. What he's mostly looking for are fungus infections, for fin rot and for various kinds of ulcerations. The mottled pattern on this scale shows it has a fungus infection. All these conditions can destroy fish, and all of them can turn up in your aquarium or pond. Always, the first basic treatment is a bath of salt water. For a business operation on this scale, the enormous production must be matched by an equally efficient distribution system, and it must be quick. These fish will spread over the whole of the United States, Canada, and Great Britain. To London, it takes only 16 hours. Some finish up no worse off than imprisoned in a bowl like this. Others have a much more sinister fate. Half the fish produced on that huge farm feed a ghoulish new craze of the northern United States, keeping piranhas. In the southern states, piranhas are illegal pets. The authorities would prefer them not to be loosed into the river systems where it might be warm enough for them to survive. Before the fish are distributed, they're sized and graded almost as exactly as fish fingers. These are comets and common goldfish. You might feel they would be damaged by being out of water. In fact, they say immediate losses through this kind of handling are very small. Even crammed together like this, surprisingly they seem to suffer no obvious ill effects, as long as it's only for a short while. The water in the boxes has been especially pepped up with extra oxygen, so that their valuable contents will survive in good condition until they arrive at their worldwide destinations. Even the lorry that starts them on their journey is a mobile fridge that keeps them at just the right cool temperature. In Britain, the majority of children probably meet their first goldfish in a funfair plastic bag. But wherever they come from, there are something like 25 million goldfish to be found in British homes these days. To give the water a bigger surface area and the fish more oxygen, sensibly this bowl is only half filled. Away from the noise of the fair, goldfish appear in some very odd places. In the dentist's surgery, they're said to soothe the nerves of patients, particularly children. And Sir Winston Churchill was a goldfish fan. He built his own goldfish pools at Chartwell. It's said that he performed simple training experiments on his fish. These are golden orph that he tested to see how much they formed habits, like always gathering within the same feeding spot. From garden ponds, fish have moved, probably as spawn on the legs of birds or as discarded pets, into the river systems of many parts of Britain. Despite their unnatural colours, to a certain extent, they're surviving. Alongside the tench and the roach and the perch, the occasional goldfish is caught. Living wild, their progeny will eventually revert to the natural drab colours that protect them from predatory eyes. Perhaps the best-known goldfish ever was Oscar, the World War II mascot of a United States infantry battalion. He came to Britain in a whiskey bottle and then travelled through the invasion of Europe in a steel helmet. For 1,000 years now, there have been goldfish enthusiasts, people like Police Sergeant Vic Cole. It's they who have modified and shaped Carassius auratus to their taste. Appropriately for a Bristol policeman, Sergeant Cole specialises in breeding Bristol blue schumankins. He feeds them on tubifex, tiny worms that are collected from the mud of river estuaries. These are babies, only 3 months old. It's from this group that he will select his show fish. What he's looking for is the perfect combination of fin shape, colour and body contour that match the very detailed specifications drawn up by the Association of Goldfish Societies. In fact, Sergeant Cole chose well, for he selected fish that later came first and second in a London show. The fish show is a sort of aquarist's derby day. This one is the Bristol Aquarists Open Show, and some of the best fish from all over Britain are here. Gathered together here are, according to one's point of view, the zenith of beauty of the goldfish world, or the most grotesque and awful examples of pointless selective breeding. The judges come to their opinions in quietness before the rest of the world is allowed in. Only then, when it has either been labelled a success or failure, may less tutored eyes marvel at the black velvetiness of this prize production of the goldfish breeder. Goldfish have only 3 basic pigments making up their colours: black, yellow and orange. However, reflection and refraction add to these to produce, it would seem, nearly all the colours of the rainbow. This aquatic pug is a lionhead. In Japan, they're the most commonly kept of all the exotics. This creature is a very long way from that drab grey carp of the South Chinese rivers. It's a fish that man has created for his own pleasure. It's almost impossible to believe that all these various shapes are one species, but one species they are. If it proves anything, it's the enormous capacity for variety and change that lies dormant in each and every species of animal.
On the evolutionary scale, it is somewhere between the fishes and the reptiles, plodding upstream as though continuing a slow march through the ages that has taken several 100 million years. This is the largest amphibian on Earth. The giant Japanese salamander, almost 1.5 meters long. Some reach a weight of 20 kilograms. Rising over 1,000 meters above sea level, these are the Shogoku Mountains. In wild mountain streams that tumble down through the valleys, the giant salamanders spend their lives. Their range is limited to just 3 areas of Japan, where conditions are right for survival. Evolution has given them camouflage. At first glance, you might think the salamander is just another rock, until that rock begins to move up into the currents. This salamander is following an ancient instinct, climbing to the upper reaches of the stream. Like a salmon returning to the spawning grounds, it will fight through the currents for several weeks in search of the place to lay its own eggs. With a body shaped to reduce water resistance when it lowers its head, the giant salamander climbs slowly past all obstacles. This is a primitive animal, sticking to a basic body design and lifestyle that has not changed very much in the last 100 million years. Each short front leg has 4 fingers that help the salamander to get a grip on the rocks. The back feet have 5 fingers, which may once have been webbed. The eye is tiny, just 3 millimeters wide. Giant salamanders have functioning lungs and will take quick breaths by sticking the head briefly above water. Most impressive, perhaps, are the skull and teeth, a powerful jaw, and an unusual double row of teeth, about 400 teeth in neat rows, tilted inwards, so that prey, once bitten, cannot escape. These teeth can also inflict serious injury on humans. And that is the sound of an angry giant salamander. Anger, or aggression, also produces a white substance on its back, which carries a warning scent, similar to the scent of an ash tree. Thus, the name for this salamander is ash fish. The fossil record shows that the giant salamander today looks almost exactly like its ancestors, except that they were 3 or 4 meters long and were terrifying creatures that dominated the land for 100 million years. Giant salamanders are largely nocturnal animals, becoming very active after sundown. Caught in the beam of a powerful light, this salamander is being followed by an underwater camera as it sets out in search of food. They live mainly on swamp crabs and fish, depending on their own rock-like camouflage for concealment. This crab, for example, has spotted some cover under a nearby boulder and heads for what appears to be safety. This apparently ponderous and primitive amphibian is not something that crabs and fish want to meet on a dark night. And now the salamander is dealing with a momentary case of severe indigestion. Fish that were swallowed whole are quite understandably trying to escape from deep within its stomach. giant amphibians have all but disappeared from the rest of the Earth. The only two related species are found in an isolated part of China and in the United States, where they are smaller and known as hellbenders. Once they were found in Europe, but repeated glaciation may have wiped them out. In this small corner of the Orient, there was no glaciation, but they still face serious problems. Here, a giant salamander stubbornly defends some man-made territory, a special concrete cave built for its use by the concerned residents of a small Japanese town. Stream erosion control projects have turned natural banks into cement walls, and salamanders have been losing the shelters they need for spawning. It's an old problem for wildlife, the loss of habitat because of man's activities. The tenant of this cave is not about to give up without a fight. In spite of its status as a special national monument, the constant fortification of riverbanks continues to give it serious problems. Meanwhile, back among the mountains, the long journey to more traditional spawning grounds must continue. The water is growing colder here, and there will be fewer predators for the larvae when they hatch. Now it is August. For some, the long journey is over, and a sheltered place for spawning has been selected. Although it is the female that lays the eggs, the male cleans and prepares the nest and will stay with them once they are laid. Surrounded by 400 or 500 eggs, he defends against fish and crabs and other creatures that might be a threat. The eggs are about the size of large grapes and joined together like a string of pearls by a gelatinous substance that prevents them from breaking apart. Some have 2 yolks, containing all the genetic information needed to create 2 giant salamanders from 1 egg. He will guard them faithfully for 6 or 7 weeks, while only the most foolish predator would tackle such a powerful defense. Few of the larvae that hatch from these eggs will survive. This is a perfectly normal strategy. Lay hundreds of eggs, and 1 or 2 may make it. time to time, he must go in search of food. The faithful defender is once again the night hunter. And now, a large, powerful eel approaches from downstream. Lowering its head to simulate a rock, the giant salamander waits and measures the distance. Caught in those curved teeth and held by muscles that clamp the salamander's jaw shut, the eel has no chance. Because the eel is so large, the salamander will store it temporarily within its mouth, and then swallow it, bit by bit. October. The world above the stream is changing. A month and a half has passed since the salamanders arrived to lay their eggs. Beneath the surface, the giant salamander's vigil continues. But now there is life stirring within each egg. As they move, it is believed they produce enzymes that slowly melt through the outer wall of the eggs. The quick movements produce vibrations that stimulate other larvae to begin the effort to break out. Gentle movements by their guardian stirs the eggs and keeps oxygen flowing among them. Once it is hatched, each larva draws nourishment from the yellow sac on its stomach for about 50 days, until it is large enough to catch its own food. Like the larvae of other amphibians, they are equipped with feathery external gills, which they will lose during metamorphosis to the adult stage. For most, the odds are against survival. It is believed that only 1 in 10,000 will live to make the long trek back up this river to spawn as an adult. The arrival of winter brings harsh conditions to the rivers that flow down from the mountains. In places, the water may freeze to the bed of the stream, and the temperature of the water everywhere is 0 Celsius. Even at these extremes, the giant salamander remains active. As an amphibian with a soft skin that needs moisture, it must live close to water. It could have moved downriver to more moderate conditions and has the ability to live on land, but it prefers to stay here. Perhaps this toughness has been the clue to its survival. All it asks for is a clean, cold mountain stream with a good food supply and a secure place to spawn. But it remains an endangered species, distinguished from other salamanders by its extraordinary size and weight. Any primitive animal that somehow evolves unchanged for millions of years and stubbornly clings to its way of life should be treasured and respected and allowed to live undisturbed within its chosen ecological niche. The Japanese giant salamander gives us a glimpse of an age of reptiles and amphibians. It is part of the history of this earth and has earned the right to survive for another 100 million years.